Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna have a look at this gorgeous C40 Recharge. This is Volvo's first dedicated electric vehicle. You do have the XC40 that also comes as an EV, but you can also get that as an internal combustion engine. The C40 Recharge, you can only get as an EV. You can't have the fastback design as an internal combustion engine. I really like the design. There's some subtle changes for the XC40 and the C40. For example, this headlight design on the C40, you can see that it goes up here. On the XC40, it actually continues down and creates almost like a square headlight. And looking at the rear view, that's where the big changes are, of course, compared to the XC40. You have the fastback design. Of course, you get a little less trunk or luggage space in the rear, but that's some trade-off you have to do when you have a design like this. So it starts at around $60,000. It has dual motors, which means all-wheel drive, one in the front and one in the rear. 402 horsepower. 0 to 60 official number is about 4.5 seconds, but the same motors are found in the Polestar 2, and that does 0 to 60 in 4.1. The wheels are 20-inch and they're actually staggered, so we have 235s in the front and 255s in the rear, and I like that. You got some beefier tires in the rear end. On the interior, it's a pretty standard XC40 interior. Right here we have a 9-inch infotainment screen right here, and then we have the 12-inch I think that's a 12.1-inch digital system with the map. As you can see, when we put it in drive, you get the map in the middle right there, which is pretty convenient. This only comes in one trim level, which is the higher trim level that gives you the Harman Kardon sound system. You also have the full panoramic roof right here. And if we look at the front and the trunk, we have a decent amount of space. The front is a little smaller than what we have on the, for example, the Teslas, but it's still pretty good. We have this big lid right here, and then we have a divider underneath this, which they have to put in, as you know, for child safety, so no child goes in here and lock themselves in. And let's have a look at the rear trunk as well. You have a lot more space, of course, back here in the rear, even though if you have this fastback design, it's gonna take up some space from the luggage space, obviously, because it cuts off the rear end a little bit. Under here we have some stuff. That's where the charging cable goes, and a jack right here if you happen to have a flat. Closes down, automatic closing, as you can see. Looks pretty good. The thing is, I'm not a huge fan of SUV coupes like this, but in this case, as I talked about on my second channel, I think this looks really, really good. And I'm not sure if I was buying either the XC40 or the C40 Recharge, I'm not sure which one I would actually buy. Usually what happens when you have a SUV coupe is that the front end looks too heavy. It looks front heavy. But in this case, the balance is very, very well sorted in this car, even though we have the mass of the rear being cut now and have this fastback design. I think it would still pick the XC40 Recharge over this, because I still think it looks a little better just having a normal SUV rear end. But still, this is one of the best looking SUV coupes out on the market today. So with that said, let's take it for a drive and see what it drives like. That's the thing with EVs these days. They kind of all feel pretty much the same when you're driving them. So I'm gonna see if I can feel any difference from, for example, my own Tesla Model 3 performance. One really interesting thing about this AC system is now I'm set on 1. You can still hear the fan, but I feel like the step between 1 and 2 is massive. Just take a listen to this. This sounds like it could be a 4 or something. I wish there kind of was a step 1.5 or something between 1 and 2. So if we go up to 5, now it's almost like a tornado in here. And as you can see right here, you have a bunch of different settings and things right here which you can connect your phone. You have Google built in, so Google Maps are actually built in to this car, which is pretty cool. I did have some issues with it coming down here, and that was that the map actually froze at a random spot. So looking at the map here, it's going totally crazy. It's just turning around, rotating on a random spot that is nowhere near where we're actually at. How I solved that problem was that I actually turned the car off manually and walked away from the car for 5 minutes and then walked back, and then all of a sudden everything updated and it went back to the actual position that I was in. You have the maps right here, which is pretty convenient because you have a quick button for where the chargers are, so you can quickly have Google look around where the chargers are, and also it says if it's a slow charger, fast, or very fast charger. In the middle, if you don't want the map, you just click this button right here. You can see that the map then disappears. And on the side here, I'm not sure if you can see this, but this is a pretty cool graphic. So when you're accelerated, this bar goes up, and when you have regen braking, this bar then goes down right here. So you can see how much energy in real time you're actually using. But with that said, let's do a quick pull here, 0 to whatever, and see how fast this car is. Let's go. Yeah, so it's pretty quick. It's not bad at all. It's 402 horsepower, dual motor, gives you all the traction you need. And then you have, of course, the staggered setup in the rear with the 255s in the rear and 235s in the front. Gives you a little bit more traction in the rear end, and also gives it that beautiful, properly stanced look. I would probably like to put, even though it's gonna mess with the range, obviously, like I did with my first Tesla, but I would put 275s in the rear to have it look even more planted and really have the tires kind of flush with the body. I think that looks so good, and I think it would look really good on this specific car as well, because we have the beautiful sporty fastback design in the rear end. So while we're driving here, I want to introduce you to this premium Harman Kardon sound system, and let's have a listen to what that sounds like. It's not bad at all. It's pretty good sound quality, and then you can of course go inside here in the infotainment system and mess around with this if you really want to, you know, fiddle around with the settings of the stereo. But from the get-go, I guess all of them are pulled to the max right here, as you can see. But it sounds pretty decent. It's not a bad sound system at all. So driving the C40 Recharge, that's the thing with electric cars. As I said, they feel pretty much the same, all of them. It doesn't really matter if they're a high sitting kind of SUV like this, or if they're a low riding sedan like the Model 3. They all handle really well, and they all pull, as you know, with that constant to EV torque, but they don't really have a different personality. And I think that's something that car manufacturers should work on in the future, to bring out some different personalities of the driving experience of EVs. I think they're a little bit too similar at the moment. That said, it's a very comfortable ride, and it's super smooth. We're gonna take it out a little bit on the highway a little later to see how it rides on highway speeds. One thing I'm noticing in this car compared to the Teslas that I've driven is that you hear this clicking noise every now and then. I don't know if you can hear. Let me try it and see if you can hear it right now. You hear that clicking? It's like small clicks somewhere behind the dash. And you do sometimes hear that when you come to a full stop in a Tesla and just let off the gas. I think it's a relay or something like that that clicks. But in this car, it clicks a lot more often than in the Tesla, which is pretty interesting. The thing is, when you've been driving EVs, a few of them for a while, for example, comparing this to, or comparing the, when I first drove the Tesla Model 3, the performance, I felt like that was insanely quick, and it is really fast. It's that 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds. And then I haven't driven the Plaid yet, but I would assume that if I ever drive the Plaid, which I'm probably gonna do pretty soon, I think after I drive that, the Tesla Model 3 performance is then gonna start to feel like almost normal, and it's kind of weird how spoiled we are with acceleration times when it comes to EVs, because I thought the standard range plus, when I had that does 0 to 60 in I think 5.3 seconds, and even that at the time felt really quick. But this is over a second, or about a second quicker than that, and it feels fast, but it doesn't feel like insanely fast anymore. There's a food truck out in the middle of nowhere. Regarding the range of the C40 Recharge, you have about 225 miles of range, and I would assume that would all be under, you got to keep it under 75 miles per hour. It seems to be 75 miles per hour seems to be the sweet spot. I'm gonna do a test on that because I'm going across Florida tomorrow, and I'm taking this on a road trip there to see the actual range, what you can get from the C40 Recharge. If you're interested in seeing that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. All right, so we're gonna go on I-95 and see how it drives on the highway. I think I really like this navigation screen because it looks very tight and sharp. It's easy to just glance down and see where you're going. Compared, for example, in the Teslas where you have to glance over here to see where you're going. I really like to have a gauge cluster in the middle, but this is also a design feature. Graphically, you can do so much with a gauge cluster to make it look nice, and I think Volvo has really nailed the design on the gauge cluster here in the middle. So highway speeds, we're up to 66. It's a little bit of traffic today, so we're probably not going to go all crazy here on speeds, but it feels very comfortable and really good for probably road trips, with the exception of you do gonna have to charge every now and then, more often than you would like. I think that's still a problem with EVs. If you're gonna go EV, I would always want to have an internal combustion engine car in the household for longer road trips and so on. But for, I would say, 95% of all drives you do over the course of a year, for example, an EV would still get the job done without any hassles, because usually most people don't go on 200-mile road trips several days a week, and if you do that, that's where I think the benefit of still having a normal internal combustion engine is. There's a really cool Karma Revero up here. I'm gonna see if we can catch up to it. I've seen 3 of these today on this drive. I've seen 3 of these in the same color, and it can't be the same because we're in so different locations. I don't think it is the same, but there it is. It looks pretty good. It's an EV, of course. The old Fisker Karma shell that they redesigned and made it look like the quality is a lot better in the cut lines and the body lines and the fitment and everything like that. It looks really nice, specifically in that color. So that's it for this driving review of the C40 Recharge. Make sure you subscribe for the road trip that we're doing tomorrow with this car to see how it handles a longer road trip. The nemesis of EVs these days are road trips, in my opinion. So we're gonna see how much I'm gonna have to charge, and yeah, basically everything, how everything goes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.